Changing mouse pads is not going to automatically take you from having bad aim to great aim, but it can certainly enhance your aim, and I don't think there's ever been a single mouse pad recommended more than the Skypad for enhancing your tracking aim. Well, I might be a couple years late to this trend, but I finally tried one, and for the most part, I'd have to agree with these assertions. This is the Skypad 3.0. Ooh! I don't think my tracking has ever been better than it is when using this mousepad, but I also don't think it's the end-all be-all of mousepads either. There are some quirks and trade-offs that come with using this pad, and whether or not one's going to be for you or not is going to depend on what type of gamer you are. Of course, I will be getting into all of that, but first, let me backtrack a little bit. What exactly is the Skypad 3.0? For those of you that don't know, this is a glass mousepad. Now, why glass, you might be asking? Well, because glass happens to be a very low friction surface that's also really durable. Unlike cloth pads, which can wear down and become slow over time, causing you to constantly have to replace them, the surface on the Skypad is going to last for years. Now, there is a logical concern with it being made of glass. Many are probably going to worry about it breaking or shattering, but what I can say is that the tempered glass that they use is actually pretty strong. Now, of course, if you do something stupid and hit it with a sledgehammer, it's going to break, but for normal use, it's not something you really have to concern yourself with. If you're a rager that slams your mouse, then chances are your plastic mouse is going to break before this thing does. As I already mentioned, this is a very low friction surface, which is precisely why it's so good for tracking heavy games. That's where this mousepad really shines. Once you get adjusted to its speed, micro movements feel almost effortless. But this is also a double-edged sword because micro adjustments are so easy, when you make accidental micro adjustments, those are going to become amplified. On a surface like this, it's pretty easy to move the mouse when you're not intending to. And the mousepad does take a whole new level of control to be less shaky and more smooth in your mouse movements. But on the other hand, if you're willing to put in the time to become proficient with it, it can really enhance your tracking abilities, and the glide is easily the most fun glide I've ever used. It's definitely a good experience regardless of the aim benefits. In terms of stopping power, there isn't a whole lot, but that's also not as bad as it may sound. It just simply takes more discipline when flicking to not overdo it. I found my flick shots to be very good on this pad, but I won't lie, it does take more practice and warm-up than your typical mousepad to achieve this. Now, as I alluded to earlier, the Skypad does come with some trade-offs. The first is that because it is a hard pad, it's not going to feel as comfortable for long sessions as a mousepad that offers some cushion. But that lack of cushion also means the glide isn't going to dramatically slow down once you put pressure into the pad. Basically, the more firm a mousepad is, the more consistent the speed will be at all times. Which is really nice for those that have the habit of digging their mice into their mousepads. Sometimes in tense situations, it can become an automatic thing to want to press down harder on your mouse without even thinking about it. But with the Skypad, that's not really something you have to worry about. Another trade-off, however, is that your skin can sometimes stick to the pad. Glass is sort of a magnet for oils and sweat, so you're probably going to want to have some sort of sleeve handy. It doesn't have to be a sleeve like this one or the one that Skypad sells. It can simply just be a long sleeve shirt or a hoodie, but just be prepared and know that if you plan on trying this, you're probably going to want one of some kind. Also know that it does build up gunk over time and it does require you to clean it pretty often. All you really have to do is wipe it down with a microfiber cloth from time to time and occasionally use some dish soap water. It's a very simple process. But if you get one, you're going to want to do this every so often because any piece of dust or speck of anything is going to stick out like a sore thumb once you actually start swiping the mouse over the mousepad. It may not seem like it, but trust me, you will absolutely notice it. But the same can be said really about any hard pad. And while we're on the subject of hard pads, these kinds of mouse pads will wear out your mouse gates really fast, and the Skypad is no exception. You're definitely going to need some extra mouse gates. Taking a look at the bottom of the pad, you can see it does have these 4 little grippy feet, and they do an okay job, but if your table or desk isn't entirely flat, you're going to be able to move it around a little bit. In my case, I had to prop up one of the corners in order to keep it in place and prevent it from wobbling. When using this mousepad, I'd say that at my peak, when I'm extremely warmed up, my aim on this pad is generally the best it's ever been. However, I do find myself to be more consistent on some other mousepads, and I think again, that's because this mousepad does take another level of steadiness in your hand, similar to how using a high sensitivity would. This mousepad might not be the most conventional or best option for people when it comes to slower TAC FPS games like Valorant or Counter-Strike. However, it can certainly work in those games too. It just takes a higher level of commitment of using the pad until you become more consistent with it. If you're willing to spend the money and put in the work, then the Skypad 3.0 could potentially take your aim to a new level. But it's not a magic pill that's going to make it great overnight.